Welcome, everybody. My name is Alma Chavez, and I'm happy to lead practice for us today. Happily surprised that you guys showed up in the midst of rain. Any comments? Any questions? Complaints? Concerns? Just me?
Can you talk about like the practice of not meditating for a while and coming back to it, and why that's so difficult? Because I've only been away like 1 week. I don't know, maybe there's neuroscience or something on it, or whatever your explanation is.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What was the difficult part? Staying still, getting present to your thoughts.
Yeah, being present. I was following thoughts a lot.
Yes. And then your mind is like, I should know better. I've done this before. No. Not today. Not at 7:16, 27 seconds. If you want the neuroscience behind it, our brain creates patterns that are almost like the road that you always take to work. And then one day you were supposed to drive home, but then you took the same road, and it was a Saturday instead, rode the same route to work. That's how the brain works. Imagine some of us recovering from traumatic experiences that trigger those repetitive thoughts even more. It almost feels like you describe it, like, I should know. I've done the work. I meditated to create new patterns and neurons in my brain. Neuroplasticity is the topic. However, if we want to bring it back to what's so, it's also in the world of following your thoughts, thinking that you should have an understanding or a way to show up in your practice, when in fact the practice is to just show up in the midst of rain, in the midst of chaos, in the midst of flooding thoughts. And at least for me, I go into the space of perfection and mastery, right? Like, I want to do it right. And that usually turns into more thoughts and me showing up rigid in my practice. When in fact, today I rediscovered for myself that the more I relax, it feels like my spine actually, it's longer, and I even felt like, like something was pulling me up, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what shows up when I stop resisting, when I stop doing it right, when I just embrace my breathing, my posture, and my awareness. So, if you want comfort, you did it right. You had the awareness, it was on point, and then you were even aware of the thoughts you were following. That is the practice. It's just that sometimes for some of us, it feels like more thoughts are showing up. Awareness is like the flashlight that you're shedding light on the thoughts, but it might be the same amount. It's just that you created a new level of awareness today. And for me, that's beautiful. And that's why we're here for, to practice posture, breathing, and awareness. Did I answer your question? She wants to contribute to the conversation. Is that okay for you? I'm intrigued. Go for it.
I found I can get PTSD from driving, just bad accident 3 years ago. And so I came in here, just every time I come in here, it's an adjustment period for me. And what works for me best to kind of get into that space. And something that you hear a lot is counting the breathing, but a specific kind of breathing. If it's a panic attack, I usually do inhale 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds, then hold 4 seconds, inhale, exhale. And I found if I'm trying to meditate, but I could feel my heart racing today, for example, I feel my heart racing, that centering on just counting and following those 3 simple instructions really helped me get kind of back into a much calmer mindset. It's like, oh, this is becoming fun now. I'm enjoying this. Oh, I like counting. So, but yeah, it does take time, but I hope that helps.
Yes, and we use that technique with kids, like a square and elevator, and I present it in different ways. Just consider that our mind is like a child at moments, right? So thank you for sharing that, because even though Zen practice seem, and I get self-conscious, right? I'm like, oh, you guys, I hope you don't get frustrated with my silence, because for me, it's also a practice to embrace the silence. And that's why we're here to create the silence that we need to process all of this information to whatever you are here for. I hope you can. So ultimately, even with those techniques added on top of the silence, you can just bring yourself back to the breathing. So you're still in the world of posture, breathing awareness. And for me, that also helps. I even sigh. At moments, I can open my mouth a little more and just mark the exhale, because I'm letting go. And that brings me back to my body. Meaning, I stop thinking those thoughts. And then I go into feeling them. So that's the practice. And when I said I was feeling rigid in my practice, is because this is where the practice is creating the flexibility for your posture, your body, your breathing. Anything to say, anything to add? Maybe what you notice, because that what shows up for me, the more I dedicate time to my practice, I find it easier to create those moments where my inner world and my outer world are in sync, and the awareness shows up, and that's where we have those moments of openness. At least for me, that's how it shows up. And then I get reading on that, and then I make myself wrong when it takes me a little longer to achieve those moments. However, just consider that it's all in the world of practice, and I'm glad to do that. Anybody else that would like to contribute to the conversation, or anything else to share, ask? Whoa, I did see kind of like the movement, so I'm gonna honor the order based on what I perceive. Gentleman.
Hi, my name is David. Saw on YouTube someone who's well credentialed said the quickest way to calm the central nervous system is 2 quick inhales through nostrils, followed by a long exhale. Just wanted to share that.
Yes. I don't want to get technical. Yes. And exhale. So marking the exhale, right? The way I speak to this in my Reiki session, I'm a Reiki master, yoga teacher, holistic living coach, is taking what I need, letting go what I no longer need, including excessive thinking, excessive concerns, excessive anything, even excitement, which it was me today. Oh my God. I'm in front of a group. So, thank you for staying.
Yeah, I was wondering if just if it's all right with you to add to this conversation, your question. If the practice, at least part of the practice, isn't so much about emptying the mind and controlling the mind as much as it is about creating spaciousness inside. And so when we have this expectation of that our practice, the goal of our practice is to be completely void, when it's not, we immediately attach or start adding judgment to that, which further constricts. So, I mean, for me, I think one of the easiest ways to kind of frame this type of practice, possibly, if what you're trying to do is find calm and inner peace, is to focus on kind of exactly like you said, relaxing, and that relaxation can help you kind of cultivate the spaciousness around whatever inner universe you have swirling around inside. Because we all have it, and we don't want it to go away because it's like we cease to exist. But yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yes. If your expectation is that your mind goes blank, I don't know. The mind was made to think. All of that electricity that is happening in our brain, the paths that we were talking about, the neurons doing their job. I mean, there's so much going on in our body itself. It's not even only the mind. So, no coincidence, we're also practicing body and posture because it's the awareness in the whole, the inner world, like you said, and the outside world. And it's actually, if we get technical and we want to base it on the Buddha's teaching, it's in the practice exactly of what you said. Non-attachment, detachment. My expectation is what I'm attached. It should look like this. I should be like this. And when you are creating that openness, that space for whatever is showing up in your mind, it's also a reflection of how you can create that openness for yourself. And then if you choose to, for others. But the first practice on its own, like you express, is in the sense of awareness, there's also a point where we are putting assessments, judgments, expectations, and everything that shows up as a thinking mind aside. And in that moment, for me, is when I usually, it's almost like a burst, it's like a space within me. And sometimes I smile during practice because I'm like, here I am, oh, it's gone. Because there's also that sense of relief, acceptance. And maybe in that space, then you can take on mega meditation, loving kindly meditation, whatever you want to call it. You can cultivate other emotions, you can raise your vibration. But first things first, let's just be present to what's there. And, dance with our thoughts. Like you said, I think for me it's also common that I have to shift my attention from the outer world to my inner world. But here's more fun. Or that's what I think. So yeah, it can be some resistance to just getting present to whatever is showing up for yourself, even in the world of thoughts, words, sensations, and emotions that can also arise. So everything arises, everything falls in the center. Did I miss any? You, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Prakhar. I have a question. Like, I was reading this book, Beginner's Mind. Over there, in the first chapter, it said, for meditation, you can just focus on breathing, and the practice is just watching your breath go in and go out. But I can do that while I'm just doing meditation. But to practice Zen in real life, it says the big mind is observing yourself. But when I try to do that, I have this thought that is it my small mind just observing my small mind, and it's a recursive thing going on. Like, am I really observing myself, or is it just my thoughts? They're thinking that I'm observing myself.
I love that conversation. I heard it before as the observer or the witness. It does shows up. Because there's a part of you that is experiencing the whole. And it's almost like another part of you is getting present to it. So yeah, there's even the concept of using that technique and strategy to create discernment. And almost in the world of what you were expressing, which is my thoughts are not who I am, are not a representation of who I am, but they are. I'm just embracing it from a different perspective so I don't get too attached and create an identity based on all this thinking. When in fact, if I will create a space for this to flow, maybe I will be present to who I really am. And then you get to observe yourself in the process. But yes, it's interesting how you describe that. Even though it sounded like you're really not sure if it really happens. And that's the beautiful thing, that even in that judgment or assessment, you're still present to the whole. So I'm hearing that you needed a confirmation that that's an actual thing unfolding. And it's a practice. It's a practice. Some people like view it like that. Even in other Buddhist traditions, I've heard that approach as well. So maybe you can look into it and keep expanding that. Did it make a difference for you to come to this realization of observe your practice or take on your practice as an observer?
I think it helps because then it makes me calm down my actual thoughts, and then my focus shifts to the observer.
Yeah.
And suddenly the original thoughts stop. But then this recursive observer that comes in that looks at the first observer. That's what happened with me, but hopefully this change will make.
And maybe you embrace it. Maybe you just come to the same principles that Zen talks about, which is we are whole and complete. Nothing is separated. Your thoughts, your words, your actions, your outside world, your inner world, everything is happening at the same time. So maybe we can get to that point. But I'll keep practicing. And just to complement that, those are the moments where I get present to that space where I'm almost like, I feel like, not hyper vigilant from, a traumatic standpoint, but more like, wow, I can sense, I can smell, I can hear different layers of the sound, so I expect it to let people so much. Anybody else? Anything else to add? Anything to remove? I'll take it back. I wanted to share something with you. And I think we're in the perfect space for this conversation, okay? I want to talk to you and share with you about the wild monkey mind, okay? And this is actually from the Zen, from the book Zen and the Art of Falling in Love. Brenda Shoshana is the author, and it's available in the Lending Library after I drop it off, okay? It resonates with you. And it says, the practice of Zen meditation stops this frantic activity, quiets our wild monkey mind. Our wild monkey mind loves to accompany us wherever we go. It is an inner chorus of continual comment that spoils everything we need and prevents us from truly being with whatever appears. An endless accompaniment to our lives. We take it to every person and relationship we encounter. Then we wonder why we have trouble falling in love. When we enter a space such as the Sendo, that is plain, silent, and open, this wild monkey mind may seem louder and fiercer. That is not the case, however. It's just that now, with the distractions gone, we can hear and realize what was being going on all along. The doors of awareness are opening a little. We might be amazed at what we find. When Henry first came to the Sendo, he said, I was so astonished by my vile and competitive comments on everything that was happening that I almost fell off my seat. I was scared. Who is this person living inside of me? I wondered. Where did he come from? How long has he been living my life? Henry never understood why he couldn't progress in his love life. Sitting there on the cushion, he began to realize, if there was such fury raging inside me, how could he ever trust or be trusted by anyone? How could he know the next step to take? By just sitting. Henry grew sufficiently quiet and aware to be able to extricate himself from the turbulence within and become available to just being with someone else. In time, he was ready for a relationship, and this time it took a brand new form. I think it was perfect for a conversation in many ways. Anything to say about what I shared with you?
Wait, can you repeat the last part again? Something about him looking for a relationship and it was.
If I find it, yes. I was like, I'm gonna say, oh, I found it. I'm gonna say the page. Yes. So, how could he know the next step to take? By just sitting. Henry grew sufficiently quiet and aware to be able to extricate himself from the turbulence within and become available to just being with somebody else. In time, he was ready for a relationship. This time, it took a brand new form. So, just sitting and just being. So simple.
I think what struck me when you were rereading that last part is how sort of within popular culture and how we talk about relationships, kind of this idea of emotional unavailability gets thrown around a lot. And I'm not sure that there's a real consensus about what we mean or a real understanding of what we even mean about that. And it just kind of hit me that like what he was saying or what that person was saying is that if we can't first be available to ourselves, then we can't be available to others either. And just the simplicity of that, like any kind of, you know, psychoanalysis or psychology aside, like that kind of definition of availability or unavailability is like perfect for me. It's enough. Like it's so simple, but it kind of like hits it right on the nose.
Yes. Being present. Presence is the biggest gift you can give to yourself and to others. So thank you for saying that. I even giggle when you were speaking. Getting present to the joy that connection generates for me, and by being present with you, you know, I get to be present to connection and, you know, all of that good jazz, but also, like you said, it's also in the world of understanding that it starts with us. And to your point, if I'm not able to be with whatever thoughts I have, how can I be present for somebody else when it's trying to figure out all the thinking and the, you know, like, I don't know if I'm ready to witness that, right? It's almost like the conversation we were having. Even in the reading, did you hear how it kind of talks about the observer when you kind of separate from, you know, the monkey mind? it's the same effect. And then you kind of don't internalize it. You're able to, just be, witness it, experience it. So imagine if you're able to do that for others. Nothing wrong. Everything is perfect as it is. Nothing to fix. Nothing to do. Just be. I was shocked yesterday when I found out 59% of people don't feel they can make solid relationships, like interpersonal relationships after the pandemic. Most of us are now working from home and are kind of struggling with just basic interactions. Anybody resonating with that statement? 59% of people don't feel like they have solid interpersonal relationships because they don't know how to connect. I'm so happy you're here. Practicing it. Because I was shocked by that number. And maybe that's also in the world of what you were saying, even noticing the differences for you in your current practice. We're dealing with a lot, especially after a pandemic. Some of us are barely getting out of herd mode and coming back to interacting with others, so we're feeling a little, I cannot human sometimes, honestly. So even on my own practices, it's feeling like I'm creating newly, so just let it go. Anything else to say? Anything else to add?
I like what you shared. Also, I saw a post on like Facebook the other day, and it just said, "Stop filling all the spaces." And it like hit home with me because I'm like, oh, I need to put all this stuff in my schedule. Like there needs to be planned, and now I'm just trying to say like it's okay if you have like a couple hours just doing nothing like that, so I can make the most progress. So it really stuck with me. I just remind myself and carry it with me throughout my week and not have to, schedule everything.
Right. Thank you for saying that, because it's in the same conversation, like sometimes I make myself wrong because what I'm trying to convey here is let's just enjoy the space, because our monkey mind is going to be like, let me just schedule a little more. Looking at, like going into that, let me put something in here because I don't know what to do with the space. So, that's where the practice is. So thank you for saying that, because even in your daily life, it shows up differently, right? Yes.
Vic, to what you said, I feel I fill out the spaces a lot with the cell phone. Also with the house. Like every time I try to avoid that, it's just impossible. Just to stay with myself. This the whole digital technology, like computer, cell phone, all these things, makes it very hard to. It's like an addiction that's always there. I don't know how to really, defeat it, or how to remove it. Every day I fail.
Like one day at a time. The recovery sangha is downstairs. It's any type of addiction, so I'm not just kidding, but not kidding.
I thought about that.
No, honestly, because I was hosting before leading, so I will read, we have recovery sangha for any type of addiction. So I even remember the script. It's real, especially with technology. We are addicted to overstimulation. So no coincidence, you're like, oh my God, why am I feeling all these thoughts? Consider that as a whole, it's almost an assumption that we are overstimulated, and without those, stimuli, we're not gonna be able to coexist, like it's almost like we are so used to that like we said, we don't know what to do without it, and you feel like you're failing every day because it's almost like taking on the practice of just detaching, right? And I want to tell you a couple of things. One, we just had Thanksgiving a couple of months ago. I did a 3-day cell phone detox. It took me 2 days to stop thinking about it, just to break through. 2 days, and I was like, oh my god, okay, I'm just gonna check it really quick, because you never know, it's an emergency, so I justified it, right? Okay, go back to turning it off. But even catching myself in that, I'm glad I broke through. Because by the third day, I disrupted the pattern. And my immediate grabbing the phone became, just being with whatever I was doing. I even organized things around my apartment. I enjoyed whatever I was doing. And that was huge. It was almost like going back to finding joy in other things. Because all I could find joy within it was myself and other stuff. And all the people that live there. It's like, so I get it in the sense of how difficult and how you are present to it is a daily practice. It's taking me longer than expected, right? Maybe you're like, maybe you're like judging and like thinking that you're doing something wrong, but the matter of the fact is, if you consider the amount of time that you've been following those thoughts, using your cell phone on a daily basis, almost all day, it's not going to take you the same amount of time to disrupt the pattern, but it might take a little bit more practice. The same as meditation practice. Try it on for a few minutes. If you have like a separate timer, like set up a timer and just not look at the phone for a few hours during the day. And then you can increment it. Honestly, if you want to do the 3-day detox, just tell people that you're not going to answer because I got in trouble. Like one of my coworkers was like, I was going to send somebody to your house. So just tell them you're okay, right? Because we rely on communication like that. So just be mindful about that. If you want to avoid concerns, but my recommendation, if you want to take it, is just consider that it's as meditation practice. It's not. That's why I like Zen practice. It's not a matter of how long you do it. It's how aware you are of what you are doing, and if you're like taking your meditation practice and putting your phone aside. Did I answer your question? Did I contribute to the comment? Do you have anything else to say? No. You're still thinking about the recovery sangha. Honestly, I thought about it, especially because I'm also disrupting patterns of codependency. Even with people in the world of relationships, not coincidence, I took this book, right? I'm also creating, being present with others so I can honor those moments where I listen and when I talk. And when I'm present and give you my attention and my energy. So I'm also taking that. That's why I'm on the addiction to myself on this one.
About the phone addiction, have you heard of K-Safe? It's a box that locks with a timer on it. So you can use it for cookies, cell phones, whatever.
Yeah.
That you have to actually lock up in order to not access it. So that might be step one.
Yeah, if you want to make it fun, I even seen groups of people that set up a basket at the dining table and everybody leaves their phones and you're not allowed to touch it so you can be with each other. That's kind of a thing in the world that we live in now. It's just be present, as in it's not a basic courtesy that we need to do, right? It's almost impossible for me to think that we need to go back to basics sometimes. It's just interesting. Yes.
If you want to do something less brutal, brute force, what I did is I identified what apps were taking my energy. So if it's Instagram, like, is there anything useful that you're doing on Instagram? Like, if you own a business, maybe you are, or something like that. But like, other than like how many, just assess your situation. Like, oh, do I actually see my friends on here or anything, or no? And then if that's a situation, like it's not like a source of like direct communication, you transfer it into different apps. So it's like, example is you go from Instagram, you make like a Google folder with your friends' photos and you share photos there or something. It's a direct way.
Right.
Anyway, there's
Shift
also,
from something that could potentially distract you.
yeah, and the first thing is just getting rid of those apps on your phone. You can still use them on the computer because it's just harder to use the computer for them. So that's another thing. You can still have them, you just don't get the convenience.
Yeah. Another shocking fact that I discovered this week, there's this term called bed rotting. Yes, people less lay down in bed all day, meaning teenagers, but guilty as charged. Scrolling all day, bed rotting. So now doctors are talking about the impact, right? Like no movement, no socialization, no interaction, like physically it's impactful. So you're not alone, you're not alone. Honestly. I think I might do another detox now that we have that conversation.
Just going off the phone thing, like several years ago, I misplaced my phone for 3 days, and I gotta say it was the best 3 days of my life. Like, I did not miss it, and now I turn it on airplane mode all the time, like when I'm sleeping in this class, like when I'm studying, it helps tremendously. So otherwise, it's just like, oh, I want to check it, and then it just drains. And I can't focus on my goals, so it's easier just to put in.
Oh yeah, airplane mode, could you try that? We gave you so many techniques. Nice. Anything else to share? Anything else to say? Okay, let's do another round of To the announcements.